Looking to supercharge your PS5 storage without compromising speed or performance? With game sizes ballooning and system storage filling up fast, upgrading your PlayStation 5 with a high-performance SSD has become more of a necessity than a luxury. But not just any SSD will do. Sony has specific requirements, and only a select few drives deliver the blazing fast speeds, reliable performance, and cooling efficiency needed for seamless gaming. So in this video, we have compiled a list and reviewed the top 6 best SSDs for PS5 you can buy in 2025. For more information on the products, we have included links in the description box below. Let's get started. Number 6, Samsung 980 Pro 1TB Heatsink. The Samsung 980 Pro is still one of the best PS5 SSDs on the market, especially considering that the Heatsink model is now widely available and frequently discounted too. While this drive may no longer be the absolute fastest Gen 4.0 unit that you can slot into your Sony system, the all-star sequential rates of up to 7,000 MBs SRED cannot be denied. While Gen 4 drives running the likes of the Phison E18 controller are going to offer more consistent and faster overall random performance, the Samsung 980 Pro matches the console's internal storage and is usually available substantially cheaper than newer drives on the market. The addition of a dedicated heatsink custom made for the system is going to be ideal for anyone preferring the plug-and-play approach as opposed to having to go all DIY too. In terms of potential sizes, here you get 512GB body, 1TB, and 2TB models, and you can elect to get one with or without the heatsink. Even if the 990 Pro is a bump up in terms of speed, the 980 Pro is still one of the fastest drives going, offering speeds of 6.7 GHz read and 4.9 GB in our review tests. Since this is likely found discounted these days, the value for money here is pretty outrageous. If you want faster, the SN850X and 990 Pro will give you that, but certainly if you're waiting to buy until deals season, the 980 Pro will have you covered. Number 5, WD Black SN850X. While we held off adding the SN850X to this list for a while, its price has finally leveled out so that the extra performance you gain with this model versus the SN850 isn't a huge trade-off. The SN850 is still a great option, although it may get harder to find as it continues to age. The WD Black SN850X has one of the more stylish heatsink designs on this list, and to be honest, the same can go for any of WD Black's SN850 series. A big problem with the SN850 was that it could run fairly hot when it was working hard. The SN850X does a great job of dealing with that though, because WD implemented a new thermal management profile that reduces performance throttling when it's under pressure. Although the 4K performance and random speeds underperformed compared to the older model in our tests, the SN850X is one of the strongest all-rounders you'll find on the market. It can actually be found cheaper than a lot of the entries on this list for the most part, and it's right up there with the FireCuda 530 and the 990 Pro in terms of speeds. During our tests, we found it achieved 7300 MB reads, while writes leapt up from 5300 MB to 6300 MB. IOPS were really impressive too. It may not be a massive improvement over its predecessor, but it is an improvement and one that can be found a darn sight cheaper these days thanks to the introduction of the SN850P. If you want one of the very best SSDs out there, the SN850X will be a great purchase. Number 4, Seagate FireCuda 530. Technically, this was the first SSD confirmed for PS5. The Seagate FireCuda 530 is undoubtedly one of the best PS5 SSDs and definitely one of the most popular. Touted to have blistering speeds and confirmed to be a solid performer with or without a heatsink, this is truly a staple of the SSD market. While it enjoyed a long while at the top of this list, it's getting harder to get a hold of. When stock does return, it's usually gone very quickly. And it's hard to find at a reasonable price. The FireCuda 530 has a recognizable black body with some lovely orange branding highlights. Its heatsink is a fairly understated black with one simple orange stripe through it. A classy and less bold design than a lot of the fancy heatsinks you'll find on SSDs these days. Oh, there is also a fantastic Star Wars limited edition that makes your drive look like a lightsaber, but it doesn't fit inside the PS5, so there's no point in us getting you excited. In a more technical world, the 530 comes in sizes of 500 GB, 1TB, 2TB, and 4TB, and you can choose whether or not you want the heatsink attached. In the box, you're quoted to get speeds of up to 7,300 ms read and 6,900 ms write. The drive uses the Phison E18 controller and its cache scales depending on what size you opt for. Crucially, it's got the latest in tech inside it as it sports 3D TLC NAND memory and next-gen PCIe 4.0. Either way, this is a slimline and compact M2 drive that has some of the best Gen 4 features you'll find on the shelves. In our formal review tests, we found that the Seagate FireCuda 530 2TB matched its on-the-box speeds, which is very impressive. Having used this drive for my gaming PC build, I can personally attest to how consistent it is at loading up games. Quickly, it's a noticeable boost over a lot of the other Gen 4 drives out there. Short of going for either the SN850X or the Samsung 990 Pro, it doesn't get as good as this in the Gen 4 arena. The best part is, like many great SSDs at the moment, this is extraordinarily affordable for just how good it is. If you can get this for under $70, which is more than likely, you should do it. Your PS5 will thank you for fitting in the beast all-around SSD on this list. Number 3, Nextorage NEM-PA series. Nextorage is a relatively new brand on the scene in the storage market. It's a company made up of former Sony employees who have now broken off to start a very successful solo career. Sony, admittedly, does own a share in its new solo act, but when looking for an SSD for PS5, that might actually be a good thing. Nextorage has been turning heads with its NEM-PA series because, as all the other contenders have been getting more expensive, this lovely little drive has remained more affordable. The design of the NEM-PA series isn't as flashy as the big names on this list, but it's available with a really solid heatsink that will slot easily into the PS5's M2 tray. It's all black in color, so aesthetically it isn't massively interesting. But the vent lines along its body will do the trick, and that's the main thing when the drive will be covered by a faceplate anyway. Advertised speeds here are 7,300 MB/s, 6,900 MB/s read, write, E respectively, and the NEM-PA is available in 1, 2, 4, and 8 TB shapes. Architecturally, there's a dynamic SLC cache up to 2 GB of DDR4 DRAM and 4th gen PCIe interface support. Those numbers in particular put it up there with the giants of the market and are very comparable with the likes of the Samsung 980 Pro. Like all Gen 4 options with the required read speed, this is compatible with PC and PS5, but its emphasis on PS5 specifically means it doesn't seem available without a heatsink. Luckily, its price is fair, so you shouldn't feel the need to look for a cheaper option anyway. Inside the PS5, Nextorage's option scored a solid 6,539 mAh in Sony's formatting benchmark. This is actually up there with the highest internal PS5 numbers we've come across, which speaks to its quality against much bigger, much pricier brands. Crystal Diskmark showed us numbers that actually surpassed the advertised write speeds, clocking in an average of 6,124 MB/s across 3 tests. Transfer times were equally as impressive as Alan Wake 2 moved from the internal stock SSD in the PS5 to the NEM-PA series in only 30 seconds from an average of 3 tests. That's 77.87 GB in less than half a minute. In return transfers, Alan Wake 2 moved back to the internal SSD of the PS5 in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. We noticed quicker than usual load times on the console as well, so it's safe to say we're thoroughly impressed by what Nextorage has made here. A lot of the time, with products we award best budget labels to, the quality isn't quite up there. With the others we review, it's usually a sign that for the money, that product is good and does the trick. With this, however, you get something genuinely competitive with what is typically pricier. Number 2, Corsair MP600 Elite. The Corsair MP600 Elite is the latest Gen 4 SSD from Corsair, and it carries with it the quality we've come to know from the previous MP600 models. The biggest names on this list have needed a shakeup for a while. And we're happy to say that beyond this drive's excellent and classy heatsink design, it's also one of the strongest performing SSDs you'll find on this list. Disappointingly, you'll only find the MP600 Elite in 1TB and 2TB sizes, but luckily it is available with a black heatsink, a white one, or without a heatsink. Prices across the range seem to be pretty competitive, so with a heatsink this good, we'd always recommend opting for it to keep your installation nice and simple. The reason we love this Dry's heatsink is because it blends the aesthetic choices more boisterous SSDs aim for, but is actually pretty innovative in its own right. Beneath the drive, you'll see a space for air to flow through it. Admittedly, this does make the drive somewhat chunkier than others, but it also matches the rest of Corsair's cooling components, most of which rely on solid airflow. The Corsair MP600 Elite stands toe-to-toe with the likes of Samsung, WD Black, and Seagate in the PS5 race, and we're happy that a new Gen 4 drive has come along in 2024 to shake things up. As those drives get older, this one comes in to match their performance while also offering a fair price. The quoted read-to-write speeds on the box here are 7,000 MB/s and 6,500 MB/s respectively, and in testing we actually found these numbers were surpassed, albeit slightly. Crystal Disk Mark found read speeds of 7,038 MB/s and write of 6,587 MB/s. That comes in just under the Seagate FireCuda 530, but given just how good that drive is, these numbers are a real win. Inside the PS5, it formatted to a read speed of 6,539 MB/s, which is up there with the fastest internal speeds within the PS5 we've come across. This all equates to an SSD that's pretty much as fast as the PS5 will really allow. Taking everything into account here, you're getting a really solid SSD for the money, and one that has a heatsink is going to give you peace of mind too. Number 1, Samsung 9090 Pro. The Samsung 990 Pro is the latest Gen 4 M2 SSD from the brand and offers some top contender performance for PS5 and PC. Unlike most SSDs at the moment, its price is holding pretty firm since it's never exactly gone. For cheap prices. It's also readily available, perhaps since Samsung makes a lot of its own parts. I use the 4T version of this drive in my PS5, and I can thoroughly recommend it. The 990 Pro is available with or without a heatsink, now in up to a 4TB capacity. Its heatsink is incredibly stylish and has some lovely red flashes that line its face. In an instant, you can recognize this drive's gaming chops just from its appearance. On the box, you're told this drive can reach unearthly speeds for a Gen 4 drive, 7,450 or 6,900 MB/s. It has a new controller that hasn't been seen in other models, which is codenamed Pascal. Beyond that, we don't know all that much about the innards of this SSD, but its numbers do speak for themselves. This is the Gen 4 SSD maxed out. The 2TB model of this drive we tested for review nailed Samsung's quoted figures, scoring 7,462 MB/s reads and 6,877 MB/s writes. From extensively using the 4TB version of this drive in my own PS5, I've found much the same, and it's the fastest SSD Sony's own benchmark has ever recognized. In short, this is the pound for pound fastest Gen 4 drive on the market, and if you don't mind paying a bit more for it, it's an easy recommendation from us. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so you never miss out on our latest videos.